Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello, yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm doing exactly what you're telling me to, and it's not transferring me over to a new Zoom. It keeps bringing me back to this particular Zoom.
Same here. Same here. Not working.
Same here.
Me too.
Me too.
Call Loretta.
Ditto here.
It's the same credentials, same meeting ID and same passcode.
Same for me, it does not work.
Would you like us to get off this and re-enter? Is that what you're saying?
I'm having trouble with it too.
Are you asking us to exit and re-enter?
Hi. Frank, I'm with you. What's up? They're not transferred over. I can tell them to copy the numbers from the chat, right?
I used the bottom one. I'm on some scene.
Yes.
Ma'am, I think you're misunderstanding. The link that you sent us, the second link that you're proposing that we click on to transfer us over, it's the same link as original. I don't think you've sent us the right link.
We're getting new instructions for you. Hold on.
Unless this is the correct link.
It stopped the video for me also.
I guess we'll know in a few minutes if they lock us out. What on the chat room?
Good evening, everyone, again. For those of you who cannot get in, look at the chat, and at the very bottom, you'll see a meeting ID. Write that down. The meeting ID is at the very bottom. It's 839-226.
Excuse me, they stopped the video. We have no
For those
chat.
of you
We
who are
have
on the
no
Zoom,
screen
go down
now.
to the bottom of the chat, and you'll see
There
the
is
meeting
no
ID
chat.
and the
The
password to
video
get
is
in.
stopped.
Yes.
The meeting ID is 839-226-8997, and the password for that is 471332. Password's 471332. Write that down. It's in the bottom of your chat, and then you can transfer over. Thank you.
One of them, it tells me that this person is no longer serving.
Correct, it says the video is stopped, so we have no chat access. We have a black screen.
We do
I
have
don't
more
think anybody
chairs
hears
coming.
us.
We have more chairs
We
coming.
just hear each
Be
other.
patient.
1 second.
We're working
They
out some
shut us
technical
out.
difficulties here. Walter, I need this mic to be live. Walter.
This is so unfortunate because nobody can hear us.
I believe we just hear each other because they've shut us out.
I can hear you guys.
I can hear you, but I don't think
Yeah, we
they
can't.
can hear.
I can't hear the room.
I still see the media control room, but they said that's going to end soon.
Mine says my video is stopped.
I don't hear anything from the video control room any longer. Nope,
I,
we lost
I,
that.
I still have the media control room video. Maybe the mic is muted.
Walter,
Hey.
is this live? This mic is not live. Well, they just told me that it was canceled.
I
The
hear
people
you
who had the
guys,
big room
and I
canceled,
also
we could
see
have
the
had at least
video.
that other big
I
room.
see the room, and I hear the people in the background.
Yeah, but she said that
my
that
mic is not
control
live.
room thing is gonna disappear soon.
Well, there's no sound coming from it.
Let's see.
I
Oops, I just
confirm
lost
that.
it. I clicked on it and, oh, there it is. All right.
Oh. Can you hear me in the back? Raise your hand if you can. Thank you. We're getting more chairs. Just be a little patient. We're having some technical difficulties. We're going to work them out.
Not working.
Too sweet.
I hear her saying that they
Walter,
have
they're not
technical
hearing me in the
difficulties
back.
they're gonna work out.
Is there? Oh, there you are. Is there a way to raise this up?
Yeah, once they get quiet, you can.
Oh, he says once you get quiet.
Oh, I lost
A little
it
better
again.
if you want to hear it.
I'll use this one. Is this one better? All right, I'll use this one. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to get started because we have such a big group, and we know there are people who want to speak this evening. So thank you so much for being
I
here
might
this
just be
evening.
able to hear it.
If you're on Zoom, would you please mute yourself? I think we have more than 50 people on the Zoom link tonight, and look at all the people who are here on this very important topic. So thank you. Welcome to the Community Officers Association of Singer Island Forum on Development on Singer Island. Somebody on the way in said, what is this COASI thing? Well, we are the Community Officers Association of Singer Island, and throughout the course of the season, we do a number of sessions, typically on things like insurance and legal issues, a whole range of things. And tonight we have a special session on the development of Singer Island. I'm Julie Botel, I'm the president of COASI, and I'm telling you, it's overwhelming how many people came out tonight, but it's a great thing to see. The purpose of this forum is to keep residents informed about issues affecting Singer Island. I want to acknowledge some of my board members who are here. Kathleen McGarren, our vice president. Barb Hansen, thank you, Kathleen. Barb, just coming in the room, our treasurer. Frank Fernandez, working already to try to get this show on the road. Here's Frank walking in the door. Thank you, Frank. Mike Sloser, I think, is joining us via Zoom. Bill Contole, who's right here in the front. And Marty Zippern. Marty, right here. Marty, there's your seat right there.
Recording in progress.
I was told that's where the tomatoes fly towards, so the mayor wouldn't sit in that seat, so you're next to the mayor. So thank you for being here. Our board is all volunteer, and they work hard all season to make sure you're informed on issues. I also want to thank Riviera Beach City Council members for being here. I thought I saw, maybe I didn't, Shirley Lanier is online with us. Bruce Guyton is online, and Kashama Miller-Anderson is online on the Zoom. We also have Palm Beach Shores Mayor Alan Fires with us, and Kathleen doing double duty, Kathleen McGarren. She's a commissioner in Palm Beach Shores. Thank you for being here. Are there any other elected officials in the room I need to recognize?
Oh.
Okay. Right. Thank you, Tracy Larcher, Vice Mayor, Palm Beach Shores. Thank you, Tracy. Oh, I saved a seat right up in front here for you, Glenn, but
I can't
please,
see it,
please
but I can hear it.
join us in the front.
Wonderful, thank you.
There you go. Thank you so much for being here. I can sit here. Thank you for being here. And we want to thank the city's communications department for doing their tech tonight. I want to welcome our three presenters. Thank them so much for being here. They're going to help us understand the development process, some legal frameworks, and then environmental considerations. We've got Clarence Sermons, who's the Director of Development Services for Riviera Beach, Casey Denny on legislative and public policy, and Dr. Christopher McVoy, who is a renowned environmental scientist. We want to thank them for sharing their time and expertise. A couple of reminders before we get started. Please be sure you sign in. I know there was a long line coming in with so many people here. If you didn't get a chance to sign in, I'm going to pass around the sign-in sheet, and please make note of who you are and where you come from so we can reach out to you in the future. Please fill out a public comment card if you want to speak. Myra is collecting those here in the front, right there, if you want to speak. I'm hoping that we can allow 3 minutes. Depends on actually how many people fill out the cards. We have about 60 minutes of this session that we can allow for public comment, and if that gets to be too many cards, we'll have to cut that down from 3 minutes to 2. This meeting. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Spiritus. Council members will not be speaking this evening because of the Sunshine Law, in Florida, and that applies to both Riviera Beach and Palm Beach Shores as well. So we won't be hearing tonight from Councilman Spiritus, nor will we be hearing from the council people who are online on the Zoom or here. Thank you. And please silence your phones. Please, if you're on the Zoom, silence your computer. I think that's it. The meeting will be recorded, and so we'll be posting it on our COASI website. Our website has an archive section, and it has all of the previous meetings. So if you want to look at something that
I'm muted. I can't even tell.
Could you please mute yourself if you're on the Zoom? Thanks. So let's get started. We first want to welcome Clarence Sermons. Mr. Sermons, AICP, serves as the Director of Development Services for the City of Riviera Beach. His department oversees various land development functions through its 4 operational divisions: planning and zoning, building inspections, permit and BTR operations, and code compliance. Director Sermons studied architecture at Florida A&M University and urban planning at Virginia Tech before beginning a 15-plus year career in the planning field. His experience includes working with cities large and small in Texas and Florida, and working as an instructor in planning and sustainability at the University of St. Thomas, Houston. Clarence lives in Riviera Beach with his wife and twin boys, and is proud to have this opportunity to help create the city, a great city for his family. Mr. Sermons. Make sure your mic is live.
Good evening. Good evening. As you just heard, I am Clarence Sermons, Director of Development Services for the City of Riviera Beach, and I am pleased to be here before you to talk a little bit more about some development questions related to a particular project. So I was given a long list of questions. So what I will do is do my best to go through this and hopefully cover those things that are on the minds of those here. And if we can get someone to pull the door there, I think that will help. So I'll go through this list of questions, and I understand there will be a question and answer period, and anything that I may miss, then we can cover it then. Again, to start off, the Development Services Department is the clearinghouse for any proposed development in the city, large or small. If someone wants to develop, if on your property you want to add a fence or a patio in the backyard, you get the appropriate permits. They come through our department. Anyone who is involved in that review process takes a look, checks the box, says it's consistent with our rules and regulations. The permit is issued, and you give it to your contractor, and they're off to get that work done. In the instance of very large-scale projects, generally the process is the same, but the approval authorities differ. So for the particular property that I was asked to speak about at the foot of the Blue Heron Bridge, large property, undeveloped, new construction, the process is similar in that someone can request for development on their property. It comes to my department. Anyone who is involved in the review process, that goes from the zoning staff or the building official, who all are a part of my department, as well as the city engineer, who's in another department, utilities, fire, police. They are all given the opportunity to review the project for their respective areas of development. In this situation, after everyone checks the box to say that it meets their respective rules and regulations, laws, statutes, we package all of that together. We present it to the Planning and Zoning Board, who provides a recommendation to the City Council of Riviera Beach. When applicable, it also goes to the CRA Board, or the redevelopment authority for the city, who also provides a recommendation, and ultimate approval is through City Council as to whether they will support it, believing it's consistent with what the city is looking for, and that's where the approval takes place. And then after that, they are eligible to submit construction permits. So with the current project that I understand was the main impetus for this conversation, I want to start by saying there is no active project at that property right now, meaning there are no official applications submitted saying that this is what I want to build, this is my application fee, here are all of my supporting documents that we believe meet the regulations of the city. Please review this and send it through the development process. To date, that has not taken place. I will say that I've been with the city of Riviera Beach for about 5 years. Prior to my tenure here, there was a project approved at that property of lower scale and intensity. I understand that there was a lot of public input in the project. It was approved, and it's still a valid development order or approval if they wanted to construct that. In September, my office received a request for a pre-application meeting, meaning an informal conversation with someone who wants to develop or build something, to show us what they wanted to build and get preliminary feedback. So that conversation was had about this property in September. All of the relevant departments gave feedback, and we said, hey, these are our notes. This is what we think would or would not work. Do with this what you may. They have the option of following up and submitting a formal application. They could walk away. They can modify what they submitted it. They have options, but as of today, there is no active project at that site. So to go through some questions that I have. What is the current zoning for the Yacht Club / Blue Heron Bridge site and other Singer Island parcels? The answer to that is downtown core. What is allowed at downtown core is 4 stories, but with bonus densities that are built into the code, you can get up to 8 stories at that particular property. In terms of the density limits, floor area ratio is the density limits, and that is a technical planning term that means the max is based on the allowed square footage. So it's not a units per acre, but square footage is what's measured in terms of the maximum density. So essentially, as much as you can get in those 8 floors within the setbacks of the site, that's how much you can build, and you can subdivide the interior into however many units you can fit in there that meet the building code. But essentially, that is how the density is measured at that property by FAR. The next question is, under what circumstances could additional height or density be granted? We have I'll say a floating zoning district called IHC PUD. That stands for Inlet Harbor Center Plan Unit to Development. That is a zoning district that a person who owns property within the CRA or the redevelopment area of the city, they can request, with the minimum site size, I believe it's 2 acres, they can request a planned unit development, and that is a zoning district that's more custom and specific to a certain project. The IHC PUD zoning district does allow up to 20 floors. With additional bonuses through our MIHOP Affordable Housing and Employment Program, you can get up to 25 floors. The IHC PUD is a special exception in that it is not by right. When I say by right, if you have a property zoned residential and you want to build a house on it, zoned residential, you can build that by right. Just get your permits, and it's not much to consider there. A special exception, such as a PUD, requires you to demonstrate that what you are proposing is appropriate for that site that you've chosen. So the threshold for approval and support is higher because it is your responsibility to tell the city why what you're proposing is appropriate here. So things like gas stations and IHC PUD are things where you can request it, but it's not by right. You have to prove why it makes sense here. So through that process, that can be proposed in this location. That process is very similar to what I described earlier. If they want to propose the IHC PUD, they submit the application. they have to provide us with a multitude of documents, including a proposed site plan, architectural plans, floor plans to a certain level of detail, not complete, engineering plans, utility plans, traffic studies. With high-rise projects, a shadow study is almost always appropriate to evaluate the effects of those types of projects on the surrounding areas. Lighting studies. There's a number of documents that must be provided so that staff can accurately evaluate the effects of what's proposed on not only the existing site, but those who live around it. Because again, with a special exception, they have to demonstrate that what they're proposing is appropriate for the context and would not negatively impact those who already live there and around it. So a lot of documents that we take in, we review. A part of the zoning review is to write a report to be able to tell to those we report to that this has been reviewed, we find it consistent with our regulations. After all of the, again, reviewing agencies, the utilities, public works, police, after they have all said that this is consistent, that IHCPUD proposed for that project can go to the Planning and Zoning Board, who is just a recommending body, no approval authority, the CRA Board, again, no approving authority, and then finally City Council, who has the ability, the authority to say that, yes, we will approve this project at this location. And that's the process that something similar to what is proposed to be developed here, and I won't say proposed, but inquired about at that property could be approved. To date, we've only had, again, that informal conversation. What was submitted for that conversation is a public record. It's available online. Our records can be searched by anyone. I left these flyers at the table at the front with the help of your board members. And it shows how anyone could go onto the city website, click on our permits and zoning portal, and type in the address for the property, which is 2525 Lake Shore Drive. You can type that in. You'll see the application. You can click on it and see the attachments. It shows the renderings and elevations of what that conversation was surrounded about. There was a question about Ordinance 4195 and land outside of the CRA, and how does that impact projects? I will back up to say that in the last 4 years, there's been changes in the development code of the city that allows the option for IHCPUD to be requested by property owners. So there were about 3 different ordinances that were passed by City Council that created the development environment that we have today that allows more dense projects. They allow additional floors by the MEHOP bonus program. So instead of 20 floors being the max, 25 is the max through bonuses. There was a ordinance that changed the different setbacks and development requirements within the IHCPUD zoning district, and the 3rd ordinance allowed it to be a requested zoning district within the downtown districts. And those were 3 ordinances that were passed between 2022 and 2023 that created the environment we have today. And different properties have taken advantage of these options within the land development code, and some of them have been approved by council already, none on Singer Island to this point. The next section of my list of questions is related to review and approval process and transparency. So as your director of development services, I am in a weird space where I have to respect and process and assist any property owner in the city who wants to develop. So again, if you want to build a shed in your backyard, you have a right to request it, and I have a responsibility to process it. The property owner at the base of the Singer Island Bridge has a right to request approvals for certain development on their property, and I have a responsibility to process it. At the same time, I have the responsibility to evaluate its impacts on neighbors and a responsibility to make sure you, the residents of the city, have access to that information and access to the process. So when there is a public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Board or City Council, it is our responsibility to make sure that you are notified and that the information is publicized online. The applications can be researched if necessary. If you live within 300 feet of a project being developed that requires a public hearing, you will receive, before it goes to a public hearing, you will receive a note in the mail. What the property owner, if you are a renter, it might be may look a little different, but if you're a property owner, we make sure your address receives a letter saying that this is being proposed here. There's going to be a public meeting on this date. If you are interested, this is where you can find more information on it, and you have the option of appearing at this hearing to provide your feedback, because those board members and our city council want to hear from you before they make a decision. Part of my responsibility is making sure that happens. I also have a responsibility to city administration to make sure their priorities and objectives are founded, and then city administration reports to, of course, city council, who is going to have their objectives and priorities. And I'm kind of in the middle trying to keep everyone happy. Rarely is everyone happy, but I have to do what needs to be done to make sure the process is in place and protected. So a situation where the residents, the property owner, and administration and everyone else is all in agreement and happy of what's being proposed doesn't happen often, but my job is to make sure that I'm the intermediary between all of those different entities. So in terms of transparency with this process, that is what it looks like. With a project of this scale, we also make sure that the developer, so there are some required public hearings that must happen before a decision is made on this project. But before you get there, any project of impact, the first question that's going to come out of Mr. Fernandez's mouth, one of our planning and zoning board members, is, well, did they talk to the residents that live around it? So P&Z is the first public hearing with the required notice in the mailers, but they want to know, have you done your due diligence to find out if those who live around this project are supportive of it, or if there are things that you can do to tweak, modify, and adjust this project that will make it more harmonious with their community. So the majority of the time, even before it gets to planning and zoning board, we're going to tell them, hey, if you want this to move forward smoothly, you need to talk to the community, set up a neighborhood meeting, notify everyone there, hold this conversation, and report back to my department what was discussed, what was requested by the residents, what changes did they want to see in this project. Did you modify this project based on your conversation with the community? So it's not just a rubber stamp or checking the box that, yes, I had a community meeting, but what was discussed? I need to see the sign-in sheet. I need to see the mailers that went out to advertise this meeting. So we make sure that they make that first step as well to reach out to those around the project. And so on this list, there are some additional questions about environmental and coastal considerations. I understand now we have an environmental scientist here, so I definitely won't and probably couldn't steal your thunder when it relates to environmental concerns and how they are evaluated. But I will say that the building code of the state of Florida that we must abide by has strict guidelines on when you are under construction for a property, how you can ensure that your construction work does not contaminate or inhibit properties surrounding you. The city does have a wetlands protection ordinance. So in any scenario where you are developing near wetlands in the city, there are additional buffers and there are additional development requirements and environmental considerations that, again, the developer has the burden of proof of demonstrating that, hey, we are not negatively impacting this wetland. There are no official city wetlands near this property, so that particular environmental land development section of our code does not apply to this property. But that is something that we do have in cases where it does apply. Otherwise, the building code is very sensitive to environmental considerations when sites are being developed and runoff. And then finally, I have a section related to infrastructure and public services. So I mentioned during that development process that my department is responsible for making sure that anyone who needs to weigh in on this project does so before it goes to the public hearing. So has the city analyzed whether existing roads, bridges, and traffic systems can support additional development on Singer Island? That is an important question. And again, anytime a project is proposed, a project of scale that can impact the infrastructure system and road systems, the engineers who are trained and certified to evaluate those systems and do the appropriate calculations and verify them, this is on their desk too. And they also have to weigh in and say yes or no whether this meets the requirements or minimum standards that we want to see our city operate in. So now, I do not pretend to be an engineer. I don't have that license, but I do know those who have it typically aren't willing to risk their license for things that don't meet the regulations in the code. They are involved in the review process as well. My department does not oversee directly traffic and infrastructure systems of the city, but we make sure those who do also weigh in on this project to say, yes, the capacity is there, or no, it's not. In cases where it's not there, it is the responsibility of the developer to make the modifications necessary to make sure it is there if anything goes online in terms of large-scale development. Sometimes that means building new water lines, widening streets, adding traffic signals, but whatever the infrastructure requires to support a project, that's not the city's responsibility to provide to this developer. Is if they want to move in and these are the impacts of their project, it's their responsibility to put them online. So if there's an approval project coming on a line or coming before city council for a project of this scale, those things would have already been worked out, and it would say that one of the conditions of approval is they have to expand this street for 2 lanes on each side, add a traffic signal and a turn lane to handle the capacity of the project. So those are things that are determined through the review process and are part of the package before it's going to city council for their consideration. And I believe that covers the questions that I have here before me, so I will pause and turn it over to our moderator for what is next.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sermon. Oh. Thank you so much, Ms. Olivia. Okay, turn this one off. Is it feeding back? What? Okay. So we'd like to take some public comment now, and we'd like to begin with Mayor Fires, because I think he would like to have a few words to say, and I'm going to give him this mic because then maybe he doesn't have to.
No, that's okay. Well, thank you. That was an excellent presentation, but not reassuring. For those of you who don't know me, I spent a number of years in the Arabian Peninsula as the CIA station chief. And I watched people in pursuit of money. It leads to greed, it leads to folly, it leads to decisions that are just awful. And whenever money is in the game, it seems as if common sense goes out of the game. For example, I've been watching on PBS a series about buffalo. For the pursuit of money, came from buffalo furs, we almost rendered that breed extinct. For the pursuit of money, we polluted every river in the upper Ohio Valley, Pennsylvania. For the pursuit of money, we stripped the mines, coal mines, we left scarred land, we left dirt everywhere. For the pursuit of money, we didn't clean the air. I remember as a kid walking down the street, having to eat my ice cream cone before soot fell on it. I remember blowing my nose and it was black. I remember taking a bath and it was gray. when it was done. We make horrible decisions. There is huge money involved in this project, and I'm afraid there will be horrible decisions made. A tower of 25 stories on that lot is out of place. It's unconscionable. You only have to look across the street to Marina Grande to see what kind of a folly it would be. And I don't think we should repeat two follies on top of another, but where there is money involved, common sense goes out the door, and it will be up to you, the residents, to stand up and say no. Because a tower of that portion on Singer Island, one of the last sites of real natural beauty in all of Florida, not plastered over completely by concrete, is totally out of place and just should not be there.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, if there is anyone, I have a number of public comment cards here. If there is anyone who would like to speak, and we're going to divide those up to have some after every speaker. Are there people who submitted a public comment card who have questions for Director Sermons and would like to speak now, or people who would like to wait until the other Kathleen would like to speak now?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kathleen McGarren, and I live on Singer Island. I want to begin by acknowledging the importance of the Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA. It was created with a clear purpose to revitalize blighted areas, to promote equitable investment, to promote quality of life among the residents. The CRA comprehensive plan emphasizes infrastructure readiness, environmental stewardship, and preserving community character. These are not abstract goals, they're practical guidelines to ensure the redevelopment strengthens the city but not overwhelms it. But when we look at the IHCPUD Inner Harbors Center redevelopment area, part of the broader CRA district was now being applied to Singer Island, we see a troubling disconnect. The Inner Harbor Center zoning permits buildings of up to 25 stories, if you just heard, with approval of a simple majority, and it allows land outside the Inner Harbor Center boundary to be included to meet minimum site requirements. This opens the door to high-rise development in areas that were never intended to absorb that scale, especially on a barrier island with limited infrastructure. Let's talk about infrastructure. Singer Island has one aging sewer line. A1A is one lane in each direction, already congested and hazardous. There's no clear plan for cumulative infrastructure upgrades to support the multiple towers now being proposed. And that is a major concern. These projects go on based on one project at a time without considering the multiple effects of several projects that are being proposed right now, although not officially sent. Let's talk about community character. The CRA plan calls for preserving neighborhood scale and public access to views and open space. 25-story towers at the southern gateway to Singer Island would permanently alter the skyline and block views for nearby homes. That's not revitalization, that's transformation. So I ask, is this the vision the CRA has designed to support, or are we stretching its boundaries to accommodate development that contradicts its core principles and, as the mayor says, is all about money? We're not opposing progress. We're asking for responsible planning, planning that respects infrastructure limits, protects the environmental assets, and preserves the character of our community. Thank you. Way to go.
Thank you. I'd like to call on Carl Presto, who would like to speak about. Come up here.
Thank you. My name is Carl Presto. I own the Blue Heron Bridge Hotel and Dive Club right across the street from the property. It's a magical enclave in Singer Island, and we love it. I'm wondering, my one question is Surrettes involved in this? The Surrettes. That's basically just a question I have. I know the other authorities we have within the city, but there's somewhat of a, I don't know if it's a higher authority or not, but it's the charrettes. Clarence, are you familiar with the charrettes?
Like a design charrette type of workshop or exercise?
No, I believe it's a group that monitors the traffic that comes in and out of the city. If there's enough if there's a hurricane or another emergency, that people can leave and exit, come and exit the island.
I'm not familiar with that organization, at least by that title, but
Okay. Are you familiar with it, sir? The charrettes?
I certainly don't know any details about specific to here. What I understood, and I suspect that the director understood of charrette, is a public planning sort of activity where people can come and offer input.
Evacuation.
Usually they're design level, but it might be broader.
I believe it is, but nonetheless, so I guess that's a question for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this topic for this speaker? Oh, in the back. And tell me your name so I can look for your card. Mr. Presto, come on. Mr. Presto has another question.
Sorry, I needed to follow up on this. I'm concerned about the snorkel trail. And if there's going to be docks, is that going to impact the snorkel trail with the boats coming in and out that everyone loves to use in Riviera Beach? It's been voted 3 years in a row one of the top places to snorkel or scuba dive in the city.
In the United States.
What?
Can we just let Mr. Sermons answer? Go ahead.
When looking at a project such as what is proposed, that's one of the first things that came to my mind as well. But I will emphasize, like I started the conversation with, right now there is not a application for us to review and analyze. All of the right questions are what will be asked, and that they will be required to provide an answer for. But as of right now, I don't have any evaluation to give you and say this is what we believe of the project and this is what we found it to be consistent with or not consistent with, because right now there is no active project, so I don't have that level of analysis to give you for specific concerns related to what someone is thinking about submitting a project for at that property. So I will just reiterate that disclaimer.
Thank you, Mr. Sermons. And now we have Linda Freeman.
Yes. Okay, I'm on Island Road, and I'm scared to talk in front of you all, but it's okay. A couple of my neighbors felt this way, so she put this together, and I think it's very insightful from her research. And it's, please compel the Riviera Beach Redevelopment Agency to obey Florida law and remove all Singer Island properties from within their CRA zone. I appeal first to Riviera Beach City Council, but the same people also serve on the CRA board. Florida law requires CRA zone properties to be blighted. Blighted property is defined as a structure or parcel of land that is deteriorated, unhealthy, unsafe, otherwise in a condition that negatively impacts the surrounding community. The area inside the CRA zone on Singer Island is well kept. Each property exceeds $1 million in market value. So the CRA zone, because they want to circumvent zoning laws, satisfy greedy developers, increase tax revenue, our neighborhood of 1- and 2-story homes will be ruined with monster high-rise buildings. Also, the roads and inner structure cannot support more high-density housing, heavier traffic on an already overdeveloped island. The 25-story buildings the CRA wants to approve behind our houses and along the inner coastal waterway would block out sun for many hours each day at the #1 dive spot in Florida. The Blue Heron Bridge Dive Park, less sunshine would result in damage to the international popular spot's ecology and affect Florida's tourism. Therefore, I request that Riviera Beach be required to comply with Florida law and remove Singer Island neighborhood from the CRA zone.
Thank you. Thank you. On the nose. She must have practiced that. Myra, did you want to say something? Right. And so Myra is our timekeeper here. So we're going to ask Bill to fill in as timekeeper for Myra's 3 minutes. We have to limit you to 3 minutes. So.
I didn't want to say something. I wanted to ask a couple of questions. So when they came to you with their initial proposal, were they talking about 25 stories? Was that part of their, when they had?
Yes, in the conversation we had,
okay.
They did want to build to the max allowed by the code.
Okay, because that wasn't clear. Thank you. And the 3 properties that are next to it, those 3 low buildings, is that something, are they looking at putting that all together as one big continuous
Yes, there's at least 2 properties next to the old Singer Island Yacht Club property
Yes.
that they have also control of.
Right, okay. And the parking floors, I assume they're going to have parking floors. Are those included within the 25 stories?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Still
Anyone
too high.
else on this top, in the back? J.B. Dixon. I don't have an extra one. Can you ask Frank to give you a public comment? And we're limiting to 3 minutes, and we have a
I just wanted to be sure that somebody who lives on Singer Island in Riviera Beach got to speak tonight, because I think the majority of the people here are from Palm Beach Shores. And so I wanted to, well, I believe, because this is my 3 minutes, I believe, thank you, that our elected officials need to know who is from Singer Island Riviera Beach and who is from Palm Beach Shores, because people from Palm Beach Shores do not live in Riviera Beach, do not pay taxes in Riviera Beach, do not vote in Riviera Beach. Obviously, people from Palm Beach Shores have a perfect right to come and give their opinion, as does anybody from Tampa to Miami. But my point, in addition to telling our elected officials, again, that Singer Island is Riviera Beach and then Palm Beach Shores, which I think is important for them to know, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that so many of the remarks being made after hearing Mr. Sermon speak ignore the fact that you cannot say the infrastructure will not support it, because the studies have not been done. The environmental studies have not been done. The infrastructure studies have not been done. So what I'm saying is that a lot of people have given deliberate misinformation on this, and who have said this will never happen, this will happen. That is an assumption. So I am saying, why don't you ask people for proof of what they are saying? Because I think Mr. Sermons has already told you that the people who tell you that they know about all these plans, there are no plans. So again, I think each of us who have our 3 minutes, you can have your 3 minutes also. In terms of it fitting in with the neighborhood, The entire eastern part of Singer Island is filled with huge buildings. Only the west side are the single family homes. Okay, so I think it will fit in perfectly, far more than the tattoo shops and the liquor stores. It would make a much better entrance to Singer Island. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Bill Control.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bill Contol, and I live in Riviera Beach. Actually, I've lived in the city for 45 years. I've lived on the west side and east side. And I'm telling you that this moment in time for the city is a crucial time for us. Because what's being asked to do is to change the whole environment of our city. Now, what we're talking about is not just the big building that's going to be built there. This is something for all the people in the city to enjoy. We in Riviera Beach have 2 beaches. You can go to the ocean, or you can go to this beautiful #1 dive site in the country and have that. And that's for everyone. Every day I see people all over the city walking their families and their children over here so they can enjoy this beach. It's not out in the ocean with the currents. It's safe and protected. And we owe that to our citizens, to everyone, to protect that. It's something that you have to be responsible about things. And just to let everyone get an idea, we picked on the Marina Grande because Marina Grande was a fight. But it is the same height as this proposed building. Let me show you what you're looking at. This is the beautiful, the same height of the building that they're proposing, and what's that? Yeah, we'll walk it around. That's just the one building. And as you look at this, you'll see the shadow. That's not first thing in the morning, because I talked with their attorney who was forced to give me their environmental report. And what his environmental report said, it's a 300-foot tower they want to build. And he admits that the most potential environmental dangers to the ecosystem of Lake Worth Lagoon are shading of seagrasses by bridges, tall buildings, and floating docks. Exactly what's proposed here. And he goes on to say, shading of the seafloor by this 300-foot tower will take place during the morning hours of each day. So guess what? Tell your family and your friends, don't go to the beach in the morning because it's in the shade. Don't have your family that you bring over from the city, that you have your one day to take it there. Now, I hired an environmental expert company called CSA, and I said, let's find out what's there. Because you see, the city hadn't done this. No one has done this. So I did it. And guess what? That area, that area right there that's going to be shaded that you see, this is like 10 o'clock, the shade. That area is full of seagrasses, 5 different species, full of corals, and of course, everyone goes there to dive for the beautiful exotic creatures. Now, not only does this area beautiful to all of us citizens, economically it's powerful. The latest study I could find was in 2017. Over $200 million came into the county for dive-related activities, and it gave jobs to 82 million people. What happens when we destroy this #1 dive site? What happens to the dive shops and the people they hire? The restaurants where all the people that come in town, the hotels that they go to, they're all going to lose. Okay, I got to quit, but I have more to say. I would tell you that. But what I would like to say, one more thing is, we have stopped this development before. 15 years ago, they were going to take away our public beach. And the people got together, passed a referendum, and you know what they voted for? 5 stories. 5 stories on the beach. We can do it if everyone in the city realizes this is all about our city, not about giving some developer $1 million condos. Thank you.
Thank you. I have 2 people who want to speak. Did you fill out a card? Yeah, okay. Come on.
Sure, my name is Jim Abernathy. I've been in Palm Beach County my entire life. My name is Jim Abernathy. I've been in Palm Beach County my entire life, lived on Singer Island as a child. I live in North Palm Beach presently. I'm a National Geographic wildlife photographer and cinematographer. My business, which operates out of Riviera Beach, takes people from all over the world to the best locations worldwide for what we're looking for. And I just wanted to correct you and others that said that the Blue Heron Bridge was someone said the best in Florida. In 2013, People's Choice worldwide, best dive site in the world. Additionally, in a book published of the top 50, the top 50 dive sites worldwide, it's listed near the beginning of the book. And also, it was voted Florida's best shore dive as well. I can tell you that my clientele, which comes from all over the world, insists on diving the Blue Heron Bridge before and after every trip. This is a world-class diving destination that deserves to be protected. If you put if you get rid of the sunlight to grow the grasses that are growing there, which are all critically endangered, you're going to get rid of the sea turtles that live there and everything else that's there. And I'd love to show you what's all there because I've done Palm Beach County's tourism videos on this place. And although I haven't seen every animal there, I have been diving there for 58 years. Let's not destroy it.
My name is Paul Kotzel, and I lived on Singer Island for at least about 25 years right now. But I had no idea that this 25-story was actually being proposed or being allowed. But I would imagine there were some city council members that proposed this, that supported this, and voted for it. I just did. And what I would like... I'm Riviera Beach. I'm on Singer Island. That's what I said in the beginning. And I would like to tell our Riviera Beach councilmen that are on this Zoom and the people here now that this was a resolution to do it. I don't know, again, it was done at midnight. It was done unannounced. There was no town hall meetings that I was aware of. I think they could put another resolution in to resolve that resolution and no longer allow 20-plus story buildings on the island.
Do you want to speak now? Yeah. Anyone else on this topic? Oh, wait, sorry. Find her. Oh. Make it quick.
Hi, my name's John Taylor. I live on Island Road in Riviera Beach. But firstly, I think this matter of Riviera Beach versus Palm Beach Shores is silly. It's a moot point. We're all neighbors, and with the same microeconomy on the island, that's ridiculous. I'm a developer myself. I go in front of counties and towns all the time. So I know this conditional use permit process pretty well, mainly for renewable energy projects. But I think, firstly, the town needs to direct the developers when you have a pre-app meeting. Surely they just didn't file it without talking to you. So I think the city needs to give guidance to the developers that there's major opposition to this. I think the Board of Supervisors and the town council need to be in these meetings to hear their constituency. And lastly, you know, the way to fight these projects is to simply lawyer up, and you stall them, and you fight the developers on every step of the way. And I'm happy to see the movement and the momentum in this room, and I hope we can continue it. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming out tonight. This is probably the same type of crowd that came out for our city council meeting, the CRA meeting, when we were trying to change the CRA district. I do know most of you here, and I thank you for coming, and most of you are from Riviera Beach and Singer Island, which is one with Palm Beach Shores, by the way. They are our neighbors, and we do share infrastructure with them, and we do impact what goes on over in Palm Beach Shores. We recognize that, and we have a responsibility to the entire island, not just one part of the island. But I just want to let you know, I'm not really allowed to speak on how I'm going to vote. The Sunshine Law is very specific in the state of Florida. You have other council members that are listening right now, so I'm not allowed to speak on how I'm going to vote. But what I can tell you is I am very, very concerned about the height. I'm very, very concerned about traffic. I'm very concerned about environment, and I'm very concerned about density, and I'm very concerned about anything that's going to impact the quality of life that we've grown accustomed to here. We live in paradise, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we still live in paradise, and that's all I'm allowed to say. But thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hi, my name's Jeff Nelson. I used to live in Riviera, just moved, so I know that's bad, but I'm going to speak more on the commercial side because I work at 4C Scuba Center. I'm also, can you hear it better? There you go. So I work at 4C Scuba Center. I actually see some of my scuba divers out here, and I teach scuba diving. Also one of many, Abernathy, myself, and another handful that got the movement to make the park protected because of the environment that's there and the rare species. I'm not going to go in because everybody's kind of hitting on one subject. I'm going to bring up some other point of view, and that is the docks that are going in. They want to bring a lot of people in there, and they want to extend these docks out. There is a swim zone that does proceed very close to the water flow, and if they're planning on putting docks out there, which is I understand you buy waterfront property, you want to put a dock up. There are pre-existing docks there that are either condemned or the other properties have them, but they want to extend them out further. So I'm talking more of a safety issue because divers go there. These divers are the ones that come in and feed the Riviera Beach community, and buy things, and keep the economy going, and help with the economy, excuse me. So when we have a safety issue where we're going to have more boats there, maybe bigger boats, because all these new docks I've seen going on at Canasport and all the other ones, I can't imagine that. And for those who are fishermen, I can't, they're going to be fishing, they fish from that bridge at times, and I can't imagine the havoc they're going to have and trying to restrict them from fishing because of these docks. My fear is they're going to bring in these docks and just impact the bottom environment, not counting what else they're going to be doing. Runoff when they're doing the construction, all this is what we're concerned about. So if they're going to making a big, massive project, bringing more traffic in there, more boat traffic, I'm worried about diver safety because there are divers who come there who are new, they want to go there because it's a great place for beginners. It's people who feel inexperienced. There's training that's going on there. And I fear that they're going to increase the boat traffic and extend these docks out, and it's also going to affect the environment. Jim was talking about species there. They have found species there that they've only found in one other place in the world. That's another reason why this place is so popular. We cannot impact this because this site is unique. It is a beautiful environment, and I feel that we make it too big, we're going to damage this environment, and we're going to affect it out, okay? That's all I want to bring into it because everybody else is bringing the other stuff up. All right, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're going to move along in the interest of time, and we'll have more public comments when our next speaker is done. I want to introduce you to Casey Denny, who is the Regional Director of Government Affairs at the Pittman Law Group, where she supports local governments and nonprofits in advancing policy priorities, securing funding, and building coalitions. She brings over a decade of experience navigating Florida's legislative and regulatory landscape with a deep understanding of public policy and a strong track record of results. Before joining Pittman, Casey previously worked for Palm Beach County as Director of Intergovernmental Affairs, leading state and federal lobbying efforts and working closely with the county's 39 municipalities. Thank you, Ms. Denny, for helping us understand the impact of state legislation on development.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here tonight. We're going to take a little bit of a step back and kind of look at what the policy framework is that local governments specifically are operating in these days. Specifically, we're going to talk about two pieces of legislation you may have heard of before. I like to think of them in two different ways. The first is Senate Bill 180. This bill really tells local governments what they can't do after hurricanes make landfall near their communities. And then the second bill is the Live Local Act, which I'm sure some of you have heard of. It's been around for a few years, and that legislation I really think about in terms of telling local governments what they must do when it comes to certain developments. So I'll start by just saying it's a pleasure to be here. I've represented local government in various capacities for a number of years, and I'm happy to kind of dive into this policy a little more. I work for a law firm, but I'm not an attorney, but have a lot of extensive experience in public policy. So we'll start with the first bill, Senate Bill 180. This bill was passed last year following several major hurricanes that hit the state of Florida all across the state. It's quite controversial right now among many local governments. You may have seen that there is a lawsuit pending where several cities and counties have signed on challenging some of the provisions in this bill. There's a lot going on. It's a very lengthy bill, but specifically, the bill prevents local governments from tightening development rules a year after a hurricane makes landfall. So an impacted local government is considered to be a county or any city within a county that meets two criteria. It has to be listed in a federal disaster declaration. That's number one. And number two is it has to be located partially or wholly within 100 miles of the hurricane's track. So in that 1 year period, meeting those two criteria, an impacted local government can't issue any moratorium on construction, reconstruction, or redevelopment of a property. The legislature and the sponsor of the bill expressed that that was to ensure that communities could rebuild quickly post-hurricane. And the next thing that it does is it essentially says that a local government cannot place any more burdensome or restrictive regulations on development during that 1 year period. Now, if that sounds kind of vague to you, it sounds kind of vague to most local governments, which is part of the problem and part of the center of that lawsuit. But anything that can be interpreted as a more stringent effort when it comes to development is prohibited for that year-long period. It could be requiring an additional public hearing. It could be adding different layers of review. Every attorney is going to interpret that in a different way, but it does really limit the ability of local governments to make changes to their comp plans as well if it's going to be deemed as some sort of burdensome or more stringent regulation. Now, it doesn't override local zoning and public hearing requirements in the way that the Live Local Act may, and we'll get into that in a minute. City councils, CRAs, they can still continue to review and approve projects, oversee incentives and redevelopment, but they just can't change existing in-place procedures. They can always make them less restrictive, but they can't make them more restrictive in that time period. There's one caveat to this. This is for hurricanes moving forward after this legislation was passed, but the bill specifically cites 3 storms, Debbie, Helene, and Milton, in which an impacted local government, remember meeting those 2 requirements, can't do any of those things until October of 2027. So that takes that year-long restriction and actually makes it a multi-year restriction. When you look at the disaster declarations and you look at the hurricane tracks from all of those hurricanes, covers about almost every local government in the state of Florida right now cannot in any way change those regulations to make them more restrictive until October of 2027. So that's also at the heart of where these legal challenges are coming from. I'll move on to the Live Local Act because I know this bill has been around as law for a few years, and it's been amended a few times in the process. Passed in 2023 and then was changed a little bit here or there in 24 and 25. The point of this law was to encourage and streamline the development of affordable and workforce housing, and by extension, it limits local government's discretion in those developments. So if a developer wants to build units that meet the state's definition of affordable housing, they can do so anywhere on commercial, residential, or mixed-use zoned property, and the city or county has to approve that administratively. That means that they're not allowed to vote on the development. They're not allowed to require rezonings or land use changes or hold public hearings. So it definitely restricts local government's ability to have discretion and also public opportunity for input in those types of projects. I'll definitely take questions to the extent that I can, and the extent we have time at the end of this. But developments that are considered to meet the state criteria are if they designate 40% of their units affordable for a period of at least 30 years. And now if they do that, they're entitled to three different things. The first is they're entitled to at least the highest residential density allowed anywhere in the city. So whatever that highest residential density is, if they meet the state criteria, the city has to allow them to have the highest residential density. They're also entitled to the tallest height allowed within 1 mile of the site that Live Local development is going to be put onto. So the tallest height is the floor for what they're allowed. And then they're also allowed up to 150% of the highest floor area ratio. That was something we talked about earlier, allowed anywhere in the city as well. So again, that's the floor. Local governments can always offer them more, but they don't have the say to lower any of those things. Now, they do still have the discretion to apply other standards, making sure that there's compliance with setbacks, building codes, fire codes, utilities, and all of those types of things that remain consistent with their land development code and the comprehensive plan. But on those three key items, they really don't have a lot of say, and these have to go through the administrative approval process. Like I said, it severely restricts input from council members, from the public to come and speak, but they do have to, as the city, post these applications on their website. So at least you all can find them, and it sounds like there's a pretty robust website that people can go to try to look this information up. I know there are some cities that have created sort of an administrative checklist, so all the things that are within their jurisdiction that they are able to ensure compliance for, they're putting up that checklist online for each project or each application and demonstrating to the public these are the things that they had to meet that we directly can control as the city. But again, the discretion is very limited because the legislature truly did intend on trying to make these projects, build units as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But those are some of the repercussions that unfortunately come from that type of legislation. So that's kind of the high level 5,000 foot view. There's some other things. There's a little bit of an exception for some developments that may be adjacent to very specific types of single family residential developments, but for the most part, that's what local governments are facing as they're trying to make decisions regarding their comprehensive plans and trying to meet different community needs moving forward.
Hi, thank you so much for Casey. Anybody have questions about this topic? Karen Gleason. Timekeeper's right here.
Thank you. Thank you. That was an excellent explanation of the Live Local Act, and that's the other side of this coin. I'm surprised that some of you seem not to understand the Live Local Act and what is involved. But I have something to add to that, again, that most people don't seem to understand tonight. Do you know the name of the leaseholder of the Ocean Mall on Singer Island? It's the Related Group, one of the biggest developers around. Do you know the name of the developer already approved to build workforce housing right next door to where we are tonight? It's the Related Group. Do you know the name of the developer who already is doing a 38-story Live Local project in Fort Lauderdale? Who is it? The Related Group. Just think about this. So when someone tells you no one's going to build workforce housing on Singer Island, don't fool yourself. Don't listen to that. Obviously, that person does not know or does not want to admit that the Related Group is a threat. Think about this. You turn down a developer who is talking about luxury housing. You turn him down. Who do you think is going to jump in and want to do a project on that property? The Related Group. And of course, they have relationships already with Riviera Beach. They have relationships in building workforce housing. They're doing a huge project in Fort Lauderdale. And they have a reputation that is nationwide about workforce housing. And they have an actual project. Is anyone here naive enough to think that if this current project, 25 stories, doesn't go through, that the Related company will not jump in? I think they will. So would you rather have 25 stories of luxury housing with the ability to negotiate with the developer, or a 43-story building matching the Tiara at market rate and affordable housing with absolutely no power to our city council to negotiate height or density? Think about what you're asking for.
Thank you. I think we're going to move right along to our scientist quickly. We don't have much time.
I'm sorry, I wanted to ask you, does any of these new laws have any provision that protects the environment? In other words, if we know that a building that's going to be in these projects is going to impact adversely the #1 dive site, the one of 2 in all of Florida underwater parks, and shade them and ruin them, is there any provision in any of these laws for them to, the council to say no?
Not that I can recall, no. There's no provision that allows for that discretion if there's an environmental impact specific to these types of laws. They're really not focused in that direction. They're really focused on recovery after natural disasters and streamlining affordable and workforce housing development. And that, to me, seems not necessarily in line with what the overall intention of specifically the Live Local Act was.
Some of you know that we're doing the Singer Island dredging project, and I'm the project officer. Every day, we have to take 4 or 5 turbidity samples and submit them to FDEP. We have to explain whether we damage any seagrass. I mean, we can't do anything that's a little bit one way or the other. We're totally controlled. And so to think that the builder can come in there and just do whatever he wants to do with no control is an oxymoron of the first order. That's just not true.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to have a few words now from our environmental scientist when he's done. Dr. Christopher Boy is an Everglades expert, author, and wetland scientist specializing in hydrology and ecosystem restoration. He has led research and consulting projects across the U.S. and abroad, including Everglades restoration planning for the United States Department of the Interior. A former staff scientist with the Environmental Defense Fund, he guided the River of Grass restoration. He is the lead author of Landscapes and Hydrology of the Pre-Drainage Everglades and serves as lead environmental scientist at South Florida Engineering and Consulting. Dr. McCoy. Nick Boy. Sorry, Nick Boy.
First, a couple. Maybe I should use that one. This works? Now it does. Okay, thank you. A couple things. I am also a city commissioner in the city of Lake Worth Beach. I need to be very clear that anything that I say has nothing to do with my official capacity as a city commissioner of that city. I will say that my experience of having done that for a long time and bumping into various land use things, that does influence the things that I'll say. But that's nothing to do with my current decision-making capabilities there in Lake Worth. I did prepare some things. I think actually my background as an environmental scientist is probably not all that useful. I'm not a dive person. I have been snorkeling in the said location. And I know a little bit about brackish systems, but I think more what I might be useful is how to go about this. And I do have to do full disclosure twice. One is that I have a very weird sense of humor, so the next part will be part humor. And the other is that I have a side hustle, which is selling bulletproof vests to this gentleman. More seriously, I think what we've heard from both folks gives you an idea that planning and zoning issues, in theory, in its best form, is a balance between the existing landowners and users and somebody who wants to come in and do something. And that balance rarely has a single right answer of what the right thing is. And this poor gentleman and people in positions like him have to try to thread that somewhat as best as they can. So don't necessarily blame him. You can keep the pressure on him, but don't blame him for everything. And I'm going to sort of somewhat extemporaneously, based on the things I was hearing, make some suggestions. Part of that balance process, well, first, before I go to that, part of the balance process is, as we just heard, extremely constrained in the last couple of years by these additional laws, the Live Local and the SB 180. I don't know the details of all of that. They're complicated, but the net effect is it makes it much harder for this gentleman to do his job in terms of protecting the existing users. It may promote affordable housing and some other things. It may achieve some of those objectives, but it makes the environmental protection side, the two of us who've thought of this, my former colleague on the city commission, Ronaldo Diaz, and an environmental lawyer as well as scientist, we both looked at each other to the question of, are there any environmental protections? And it was like, no, not in those two laws. That wasn't what they're about. But what I'm hearing, this process of balance between the existing users and existing activities, which would include the diving and all of the commercial and non-commercial activities that go with that, and somebody who wants to develop, there's squishy area in there. On top of the problems that these new laws provide, even in regular zoning, there's squishy area because there's language like, is this an appropriate land use adjacent to what's there? Well, appropriate is not got a very tight definition. I think if I asked everybody in this room as a 25-story building next to a world-class dive site an appropriate use, I can bet you that I'm going to get pretty high majority that would say no, it's not. But the question is, can that stand up in a legal challenge? Because you can bet that if somebody wants to build a 25-story building, there's some money involved. I appreciate the reference to the influence of money is not always helpful, and to put it mildly. But the city will get legal challenges. And the question is, how can you as a group best negotiate that? And the things that came to mind for me as I was hearing is, and I don't know, each of the verse and chapter of the parts of it, but the concept that the staff has to do certain evaluations of infrastructure, of existing activities that might be impacted, of carrying capacity of infrastructure, whether it's roads or sewer or whatever, but carrying capacity, as one of the gentlemen who does, I think, dive instruction pointed out, there is a carrying capacity, a reasonable concept of how many boats can you fit onto that area, with what density of boats and how much usage, before you start having more negative impacts than the ecosystem can hold. And one of the thoughts, don't kill me, I'll sell you the bulletproof vest later. One of the thoughts is, as a community, because you're going to be challenged, this is another piece of planning, is that if the laws on the books say that a developer has certain things by right, that's what it means. They by right. They don't have to ask permission. They can do that. If there are other things, like the planned unit developments, that give them other things that maybe is not quite by right, but that it becomes perhaps and I don't know how it works for Riviera Beach, a quasi-judicial hearing in front of the council. Those hearings are very constrained. You could all come and say, everybody in this room, 500 people, 100 people, however many, are 100% opposed to this thing, and the council is quite constrained in whether they can pay any attention to that. They have to go by whatever laws are already on your books. The place to put the influence, ideally, is who you elect to put those laws and what laws they put in. It seems like, from what I'm gathering, I don't follow Riviera Beach's history that closely, but from what I'm hearing, it sounds like there have been some laws that changes to the CRA, to where the CRA applies, that kind of open the door a little bit more on the developer side and perhaps close the door a little bit more on the environmental protection side. Well, a key question that you as a community can ask is, what are the time frames? Is there any possibility to change any of those rules at this point, or has that bus already left because a developer showed up with an interest or already owns the property, whatever? I don't know the answers to that, but that is a fair question to ask your city staff. Can we pressure our council to make any changes? My guess is no, that it's too late. Even if they are politically willing to, that's a separate issue, but that you can control with your activism. But it may not be possible on the time frame. But get that answer, and get in any interactions that you have, again, sorry to give you a hard time, any interactions with your staff, don't do them by telephone call. Do them with documentation. Do them with an email or a letter or whatever, so that you have a record of those things. And if for some reason you have to do it with a telephone call, follow it up with a letter that says, we discussed these things on such and such a date. My understanding is this is what you said. If it's not true, get back to me and tell me that I'm wrong. You're going to need that kind of thing. I think you're probably going to need legal counsel to help guide you through this, because this is complicated. But coming back to the bigger picture of how to work with the constraints of the existing law that may allow them and may not give the council any way to vote against it, then how do you work? Well, at least work as hard as possible on that this is an appropriate balance of the existing and the use, or this is appropriate protection of a world-class dive site. And here's what I would suggest. Get as much of those things in writing in advance. The project apparently has not even come in and put written stuff in. They've talked, but they haven't written. So push your council, push your staff to say, what is the current capacity of our roads that relate to this area? What is the percentage of fill-up of that capacity without this project? So that you have that on record. Because some guaranteed I can find you, well, I can't, but somebody can find you, the related group perhaps, a traffic engineer who will guarantee that this project will bring in no new additional traffic, and any traffic to have will have no impact. Guaranteed I can find, well, I can't, but somebody can find you a traffic engineer who will do that. They may be worried about their license, but they don't, my experience in Lake Worth, they don't seem to worry very hard about it. No offense to the traffic engineering community, but I've seen things that made no logical sense at all, or common sense. Get the analysis from the city of the capacity for some of the obvious things like roads, like sewer, like water supply, like fire protection, police protection. Those are known policy things. But you have a very unusual situation here with the environmental resource. Get them to, maybe they got to go outside and get outside analysis to, not me, but somebody to say, okay, what is it about this place that makes it world class? What are the things that threaten that? How close are we to being at the thresholds of those threats? If you have seagrass and the seagrass is endangered or an endangered species, that'll help you out a lot. But if the seagrass is a little iffy, which it often is for a variety of reasons, it might be nutrients, it might be shading, it might be boat traffic, get some evaluation on paper of how close are we to problems. And then when your planning staff says this will have no significant impact on this resource, you've got some ammunition in place that you can say, hey, we're already pretty close. Prove to me that it will have no impact. Because you have enough expertise in this community that can tell you, yeah, we're a little shaky. The comment that when you put more docks in, that's going to have an effect. Are there safety issues for divers? What would this proposed, however many people live in this thing, what would that do to it? What would the boats that come in? Push them, because that whole thing about appropriate balance between existing and proposed users, it has a lot of gray area. So make sure that you can get some way of documenting the things that common sense tells you would be affected by this. So that's, you know, there are specifics like the shading and the traffic, and one that I hadn't thought about, but boat traffic, increased boat traffic. There are air pollution issues, there's water pollution issues, so on. But that's the details. The approach of be proactive, of trying to get some of this stuff documented up front, I think might be helpful. I would definitely encourage you to try to find experienced land use attorneys to help you out, because you're going to need it.
Thank you, Dr. McVoy. I appreciate your comments. I got a text from Commissioner Lanier, and she said she would like to speak. Shirley, are you there? Unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hear you.
Okay, very good. I'm Council Chair Shirley Lanier. Good afternoon, Singer Island. Glad that so many people came out to address these issues, especially of, you know, proposed development. I just want to say that, of course, I can't talk about how I would vote, because number one, there's nothing that's been submitted for me to have a discussion about voting. But what I wanted to say quickly was, I wanted to make sure that the residents understood what is at stake here. 7 years ago, when I came to the council, the only thing that was left on my desk was Lone Pines. Lone Pines is a development in the city that was fighting a developer from coming in to build in their area. We fought for 6-7 years on that whole development. They won, but now what is happening is that Live Local may come without any input from me, without any input from them. Lone Pines not failed to, but did not really grasp the importance of negotiation. with the developers. So now there will be no negotiation. There will be no information or any input from the council. It'll be live local, and that will be it. And I just want to make sure that the residents understand what could happen if you run them out of town. They don't come, you get that developer out of the way, but then you have a situation where you'll have live local come and there's nothing that you can do about it. So I really want to make sure that you guys understand that, because working with that a neighborhood for 6-7 years and them winning the battle but may lose the war is something that you guys really need to consider and think about as we're moving forward with a development that may or may not come about. But just think about that, because it's happening, and it'll happen if there is not a concerted effort to make sure that your voices are heard during the process, and to make sure that whatever it is that you want to happen there, you have a say-so in what that is. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, we are rapidly running out of time. I have 10 public comment cards here. I would love to give everybody a chance to speak, but in order to respect the time of everybody, and I think Mr. Sermons has a hard stop at 7:15, I'm going to ask you to come up and speak for 2 minutes instead of 3, starting with Judith Barnes. Is Judith here still? Judith. And then Charlie Hollings. If you could come up, Charlie, and be ready when Judith is done.
I'm Judith Barnes. I live on Singer Island. I live on Singer Island. I'm a scuba diver. I moved here 4.5 years ago, and I moved here specifically because it's a good diving place. I go diving under the bridge. I dived with Jeff Nelson, who was up here earlier. I went by their store and picked these up. These are 2 books that were just published recently, and every picture in them, and they're just picture books. They're just picture books. They don't have discussion, they have pictures. Every picture there was taken under the Blue Heron Bridge. Most people don't dive, I understand that. I've been diving for over 40 years. I've been diving all over the world. It's a wonderful thing that you have here. And I can promise you, if you damage it, it will die. It doesn't look like it looked 5 years ago when I first dove it. And that's true all over the world. Our coral reefs are dying. But we have the chance here. This is a protected, unique site because it's ocean water, but it's in the intercoastal. And the kids that come and swim there, I loved his comment about, this is for families in all of Riviera Beach. So think about your community, not just that I'm on Singer Island too. No, I don't want a lot of traffic and all that stuff. But more than that, I want the quality of life for all of the people that live in Riviera Beach.
Thank you. Shayna Phelan.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Charlie Hollings. My interest tonight regards negative impacts to the water quality at the Blue Heron Bridge. As it's been said, the Blue Heron Bridge is an internationally known dive site. I've enjoyed dozens of dives there.
You keep saying.
Could you please mute yourself?
Please mute yourself. Thank you. I'm in neither. But internationally renowned and award-winning underwater photographers like Paul Heumann, Alex Mustard, Walt Stearns, Grace Pempek, and many others have photographed the marine life at the Blue Heron Bridge. If you've never dove there before, you can't know how special it is. Please, write these names down so you can Google them later. Bumblebee shrimp, frogfish, batfish, stargazer, pike blenny, sailfin blenny, flying gurnard, not to mention seahorses, spotted eagle rays, and nudibranchs. One of the biggest issues caused by waterfront construction projects will be silt, caused by work on docks, pilings, and seawalls. I strongly suggest that none of these activities be allowed during the incoming tide. The silt will be highly detrimental to many of the rare species that exist at the Blue Heron Bridge. The tide changes roughly every 6 hours. It'll take a crew an hour to gear up and an hour to gear down. That's an 8-hour shift. All silt generating work should be done only with the outgoing tide. Protective action will be a public relations asset for the developer, and silting up the Blue Heron Bridge will end up being a public relations nightmare. The choice is easy. Thank you for listening.
Andrea Jonathas. Andrea? Is Andrea still here? Some people have left. Charlie Hollings. Oh, sorry. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you, Mr. Sermons. Salvador Agugliaro. Salvador. Last name Fields. Mayon Fields. Okay. Marie Davis. Oh, sorry about that. Jerry Yanella. Zanella. Okay. Angie Greer. Okay. And, oh, yes, I think that's it. Yeah.
Julie, can you hear me? Oh.
I can hear you. Who's speaking?
It's Lou Sula. Can I just say something real quick?
Real quick.
So I'm Lou Sula. I'm the president of the TR.
We just lost you, Lou.
Oh, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Okay, thank you, COASI, for sponsoring this. It was incredibly informative, and everybody made an incredibly compelling story. And I think the number one way to do this is truly legally. All these other things are beautiful and wonderful, but unless we go at this with guns blazing, that's what they're going to come at us with. So I think we should be prepared to engage the proper attorney, a land use attorney, and fight this the right way. That's all.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, there's a woman in the back that says she had a comment, and I didn't have it, and you can. Sorry, I must not have your card, I'm sorry.
Hello, everybody. So glad that you're here, fighting for the community. My only comment here is that we need to wait for all the information to come in so that then we can make intelligent decisions and be reasonable about it. I think we all want our community to continue to strive. I'm from Singer Island. I live in Singer Island. My name is Maria Ellis, by the way. And so I thank you for being here and to show that you care for the community. And let's gather all the information so that we can make the right decisions. Thank you.
Okay, just a comment with reference to the Live Local law. As a developer, I'm very familiar with the Live Local law. Developers are business people like anyone else. You can only afford to pay a certain amount of money for property in order to make Live Local work, which is workforce housing and affordable housing. It's very, very difficult. We're doing I'm talking generally right now, not about any specific project. We're doing two projects right now in Riviera Beach that are workforce housing projects. Without subsidies from other government agencies, these projects would not work. They would not fly. It's very difficult for a developer to pay a lot of money and build a building today at $325 a square foot. It's almost impossible without getting other government subsidies. You cannot get government subsidies from most of these other agencies without having the city council's approval. You need our support in order to go to the county or the state to get funding. So I just want to make that very clear. So developers use that all the time. They use the Live Local law as a threat in order to get certain things done and certain approvals. But I can tell you that it's very, very difficult in this climate to build a workforce housing project, for example, and pay $65 million for the property. It's very, very difficult.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening. This was a great session. Thanks so much to our speakers, our presenters. I'm sorry we went a little bit over time, but we really appreciate your being here. And please, one more last thing, please look at the COASI webpage, coasi.org. We are your Community Officers Association of Singer Island, and there's a lot of good information up there, and you can email us to get more information if you need it. Thanks very much. Have a good evening.